Imagine waking up and having nowhere to be. No alarm dragging you out of sleep. No meeting in 30 minutes. No inbox filling up while you breathe. You open your eyes when your body decides it's time. And then you ask yourself one simple question. What do I actually want to do today? For most of us, that question feels like a fantasy. Something saved for retirement. Something earned after decades of labor. But here's what should shake you to your core.
For nearly 300,000 years, that question wasn't a fantasy at all.
It was Tuesday morning. We spend 90,000 hours of our lives working. One entire third of every waking moment handed over to a job. And yet, for the overwhelming majority of human existence, jobs simply didn't exist. No boss, no paycheck, no performance review, no career. So what on earth were people actually doing? In 1963, archaeologist Richard Lee did something that changed everything we thought we knew. He traveled to Botswana and spent months tracking the daily lives of the Dobe people, one of the last groups still living in ways that mirror our ancient past. What he found stunned the academic world. Adults spent roughly 17 hours per week finding food. 2.5 days, that's it. The rest of the time, they did whatever they wanted. And this wasn't some isolated quirk. Anthropologists found the same pattern with the Hadza in Tanzania, the Ashe in Paraguay, the Martu in Western Australia. Different continents, different climates, different languages, same result. 15 to 20 hours per week on survival. Everything else, free. You probably work twice that before Wednesday. Now, some of you are already thinking it. These are modern people. How do we really know ancient humans lived this way? The answer is written in bones. When archaeologists compare the skeletons of ancient humans to early farmers, the difference is brutal. Farmers were shorter, their bones showed nutritional damage, their teeth were destroyed by grain-heavy diets, their spines had arthritis from bending and plowing year after year after year. Ancient hunter-gatherers were taller, stronger, healthier teeth, less joint destruction. Their bones weren't screaming from overwork, they were telling a very different story. But the evidence that truly stops you cold isn't bones. It's art. In 1994, explorers crawled into a cave in southern France and discovered something no one was prepared for. The walls of Chauvet Cave were covered in paintings, 30,000 years old. Horses mid-gallop, lions with shadowed manes, rhinoceroses rendered with perspective and movement. Not crude markings, not symbols, art. Someone climbed deep into that cave, lit a fire, and spent hours painting beauty onto stone. Not for survival, not for food, for something far more human than either. In Blombos Cave in South Africa, researchers found shell beads from 100,000 years ago, tiny holes drilled through seashells, clearly meant to be worn. The nearest coastline was 20 kilometers away. Someone walked 40 kilometers round trip just to collect shells, then carefully drilled each one with a stone tool, just to look good. A 40,000-year-old flute carved from vulture bone was found in Germany, 5 perfectly spaced finger holes. Whoever made it understood pitch. They understood rhythm. They spent serious time crafting it. Not for hunting, not for defense, for music. These aren't rare exceptions. Across Africa, Europe, and Asia, sites from 100,000 years onward are filled with decorated objects, elaborate tools far beyond what any task required, items that demanded hours of focused, careful work with zero immediate survival value. This is what humans did with their time. They created. They decorated. They made things beautiful. So let's walk through an actual day. You rise near dawn. The fire from the night before still glows. Someone feeds it. You eat leftover meat or fish from yesterday's hunt, a handful of berries or nuts gathered the day before. Breakfast isn't rushed. People talk, they laugh, they plan loosely, not because a schedule demands it, but because that's simply what humans do. Mid-morning, a small group might head out to hunt or gather. But here's the part that breaks our modern minds. You don't go every day. If the hunt was successful 2 days ago and food is stored, you might stay at camp entirely. You might spend the morning sharpening a spear, weaving a basket, softening an animal hide with careful, practiced hands. This isn't work the way you know it. There's no clock watching you, no supervisor measuring output. You do it because competence earns respect, because skill is a kind of pride, because making something well is deeply, fundamentally human. When hunting does happen, it's nothing like the movies. We are persistence hunters. We don't sprint, we track. We jog at a steady pace for hours because we sweat and most animals can't. We outlast them. We are the only species on Earth that hunts this way, through endurance rather than speed.
The hunt might run 3 to 6 hours, including travel. The animal is carried back, everyone eats, and then by early afternoon, the productive work of the day is essentially done. What happens next is the part modern people struggle most to understand. People rest. They sit in the shade and talk. They play with children. They groom each other, reinforcing the invisible bonds that hold a group together. They make jewelry from shells and teeth and bone. They carve small designs into stone. They nap. Anthropologist James Sussman documented that adults among the Chauvet people spend roughly 6 hours each day in what he simply called social time. Not working, not sleeping, just being with other people, talking, laughing. Because in a world without courts or contracts or police, your survival depends entirely on your relationships. If people don't like you, they won't share when you go hungry. So you invest enormous time in those bonds, not because it's productive, because it's how humans stay alive and sane and connected. And then the sun goes down. This is where something truly remarkable happens. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner analyzed hundreds of hours of conversation recordings from the Chauvet people. During daylight, talks were practical. Who spotted animal tracks? Which plants were ready? Complaints about someone not sharing fairly. But at night, around the fire, 81% of all conversation shifted entirely. Stories, myths about how the world began, tales of ancestors who did impossible things, jokes, adventures from distant places, the voices of people who weren't even there anymore, carried forward through words. Wiesner argued this is where human culture was actually born. Gods, spirits, memory, imagination, things you can only hold in your mind when your stomach is full and you feel safe. And they didn't sleep the way you do. Records from medieval Europe and sleep studies from the 1990s both confirm that before artificial light existed, humans slept in 2 phases. A first sleep of around 4 hours, then a wakeful period in complete darkness, an hour or 2 of quiet thinking, talking softly, existing in the dark. Then a second sleep until dawn. You wake at 2 a.m. and call it insomnia. They called it night. So here is what an entire day actually looked like. 4 to 6 hours securing food or crafting tools, 6 hours in conversation, storytelling, play, 8 hours sleeping in 2 peaceful phases, and the rest resting, watching clouds, sitting by water, existing without any need to justify yourself through output. Then, 10,000 years ago, everything changed. Humans in the Fertile Crescent began planting seeds, taming animals, and agriculture is a trap. Once you start farming, you can feed more people. More people means more food. More food means more land, more labor, more farming. Within generations, populations exploded, and there was no going back. Too many mouths now, too many people to feed from wandering and hunting. You were locked in.
And farming demanded far more work, plowing, planting, weeding, harvesting, storing, defending from animals and raiders and neighbors who wanted what you had. The bones confirm it without any question. Early farmers worked harder, ate worse, and died younger than the people who came before them. But populations kept growing, and with larger populations came specialists, tool makers, potters, soldiers, priests, administrators, and eventually, jobs. The idea that your time belongs to someone else in exchange for survival. By the time we built cities, the original human life was gone, replaced by schedules, obligations, the requirement to spend most of your waking existence working just to exist inside the system we ourselves created. Today, you spend 90,000 hours working. Your ancestors spent a fraction of that. You sleep in one block and call waking at 2 a.m. a disorder. They slept in 2 natural phases and used the dark hours for reflection. You spend your life chasing achievement, accumulation, success by standards that society invented and handed to you before you were old enough to question them. They woke up every single morning already free, already enough, with nothing to prove to anyone. They didn't need to become something. They were already living the life you're working your entire existence hoping to retire into. You make art if you can find time after work. They made art because they had time. And that is what humans actually are. We are not a different species from them, but we live so differently from how humans spent their 99% of their existence on this earth that we might as well be. We traded freedom for food security. We traded leisure for population growth. We traded time for productivity. And somewhere deep in your bones, you already know something is off.